Alright everybody, it's time for our second episode in the Warcraft 3 analysis, and this time we're going to be looking at the prologue, Exodus of the Horde. What's a prologue, you ask? It's a string of events that happen before the main story. It's there to introduce us to the world that we're about to dive in, and it is there to bring all the characters into the right position for the main arc of the story. So without further ado, let's see what Thrall's vision is all about.
The sands of time have run out, son of Duratan. The cries of war echo upon the winds. The remnants of the past scar the land. Which is besieged once again by conflict. Heroes arise to challenge fate and lead their brethren to battle. As mortal armies rush blindly towards their doom, the burning shadow comes to consume us all. You must rally the Horde and lead your people to their destinies. Seek me out.
It's another one of those Blizzard trailers, alright? Giving us just what we want. An army of humans and an army of orcs charging into battle. Puts the war into Warcraft and gives us this familiar fantasy image of humans fighting orcs. Though the narration implies that this battle will be the doom of both sides, no matter the outcome of the battle, as both sides are not noticing the fire raining from above. It is a very chilly vision of things to come, even though the scenery is beautiful and calm, much unlike the reality that Thrall wakes up to. This might be the greatest contrast of all, but there are some subtler ones. For example, the calm music and the floating blowball seeds, as compared to the war drums and the running orcs. And also we have a lot of wide area shots, which look impressive, but just as impressive as extreme close-ups. The camera, of course, is what makes the scene so truly wondrous to us. For example, the shaking gives the weight to the characters as the orcs charge, and so do the humans. Another great shot is the catapult rolling into the camera. This not only makes a great way to transition into the next scene, but it also makes us feel right in the heat of the battle. Another great camera shot is when the prophet points at the screen. He is, of course, talking to Thrall, but Thrall's view is at the same time our own. It is, of course, not coincidence that it makes us feel like we are addressed. Another great way to use the camera is when Thrall wakes up and darts into the screen. We get a quick little shock, which is just what he feels at the same time. And when we feel like the character, it makes it pretty easy for us to understand the character. And while we're at characters, let's see what characters are catching our eye in this cinematic. Well, first of all, there are orcs and humans. Lots of them. Incredibly lots of them. And they're all looking quite unique on first glimpse. This is what gives the scene so much detail and at the same time awes us. Because when I played that game back in the day, that was about the biggest fight scene I ever seen. And they're not even quite fighting. We all dreamed about being that orc bashing the drums, or being that human walking onto the rock and giving the signal for the charge. There is, of course, in length the crow, both in the vision and outside of it. It is a connection of both the vision and reality, as well as being the symbol of the prophet, as we'll soon find out. We see the prophet himself. He stands in the dark reality and challenges Thrall to act against the impending doom. And we see Thrall, of course, awakening more from a nightmare than a vision, it would seem. What has him so scared are the words of the prophet, as he talks about a present that hasn't come yet, but in which it is too late to do anything. He makes Thrall aware of what's at stake right from the very beginning, and also he gives him a direction and purpose to act. See, for a character to get on a journey, he needs both purpose and a destination. Or to put it more general, for any action a character takes, he needs a motivation and a goal. If either of those is missing, then we have a character that doesn't know why he's doing what he's doing. So keep an eye out for that in the future. Speaking of keeping an eye open, there are some visuals in this cinematic that stick out to me. The first one being the rock falling. Now, I know the Blizzard cinematics, and they often do some sort of comic relief. Just watch the Heart of the Swarm opening. What's that? They released a new soundtrack for the cinematic? Cool, let's hear it. Alright, all joking aside, it breaks the immersion for a moment just to pick it back up again. It plays with our attention. What also catches the eye is the sky color. It's bright red, like right before dawn, and it symbolizes the last light as it fades from the world. The world itself doesn't look too lush either, does it? It's nothing that they would necessarily fight over, wouldn't you think? This is perhaps a symbolization of the battle being more for principle rather than actual ground. In the end, it is only one who stops and looks up even before the fire falls from the sky. It implies that Thrall has to be this one that stops and takes a closer look. With everything that we just learned, we can say that the prologue cinematic does more than show off neat graphics. It already starts to get a connection with us, and at the same time giving us some hints and clues of what has to happen to stop the prophesized ending. Thus, we come to our first mission, Chapter 1, Chasing Visions. And I really gotta say I like this loading screen. Not only because it gives us a quick text form summary that is opened up like a page out of a tale book, but there are some more things on here. Above the text we can see the Horde crest. It characterizes what the Horde is. We haven't even learned that much about it, but just from looking at it, we can already see some things. We see axes, wolves. It is sharp and battle-tested. And to the left, we see a primitive yet functional map. It may lack scaling or proper perspective, but it shows us where we are and what may be happening in our next mission. It gives us a sense of the time that we're in, just by the way it is painted. We are in a time where maps are not accurate, a time of exploration and discovery.
What kind of nightmare was that?
It was not a nightmare, young Warchief, but a vision. Follow me, and I will reveal what your future holds.
I don't know what this is all about, but I'll play along.
This scene is quite simplistic. It gives Thrall a goal and a motivation, as the prophet tells him, "Follow me, and I will reveal your future." So let's follow, shall we? And I gotta say, my first impression was, damn graphics. They've aged quite a bit, haven't they? What do I mean by that? Well, in our mind, rough edges and sharp objects feel threatening, while round shapes and soft edges calm us down. Due to the lower polygon count of older games, they appear less pleasant to look at. But within an hour of me playing, I got used to it, and there are so many other things that catch our eye. Speaking of seeing, I like the way you uncover the map. It's not unique to Warcraft, but it symbolizes our journey into the unknown so well. We're just stepping out into a dark, dark world. Once again, I felt the desire to unlock the entire map, just cause I can. On that note, I got a request to show all the hidden secrets, so I will, of course, do that. And maybe we'll even find some fat loot.
Loktar, my warriors! We are yours to command, Warchief!
Upon reaching the Orc base, Thrall calls forth his warriors. At the same time, we get a sense of what Orc life is like. We see simple, scattered buildings, mostly out of logs, tied together with rope and then reinforced with cobblestone. They love eating pigs and sharp-toothed decorations. Most importantly, though, is that we see them having something to call home. It may not be much, and they might not be welcome, but there is something at stake for them, and they are leaving it, maybe forever. On their search for the prophet, they come across a variety of different creatures. Besides the orcs themselves, there are gnolls, murlocs, ogres, golems, and trolls.
Forest trolls. I still can't believe they were ever a part of the Horde.
Who apparently were once allies of the Horde. Wonder what happened. There is an interesting little detail here. Most of these creatures have themselves homes. They build houses, and because of that, we see that they are living in this world. It is what makes this fantasy world so rich, and being in it, believable. We also see the orcs on the move as always, kill everything in their path. Now maybe this is just gameplay and teaching us on how to play. Yet most of the time, when we will be fighting against enemies, we will have a good reason. The fellows we come across though are not harmless, and can prove dangerous, even to a group of well-armed orcs. It creates the image of a harsh wilderness that you don't want to be alone in at night. And speaking of which, the game has a day-night cycle. Though its impact on the gameplay is limited, it further increases the believability of the world, because we can see time passing, and thus our immersion rises. You probably heard me stretch the point over and over again that we can see things in these scenes. That is important. There are two ways to experience something. We can either see it, or we can be told it. If we see things, then we experience them firsthand, and it matters more to us. An example of just being told something would be the prophet referring to Thrall as the son of Durotan, and it's gonna happen again here real soon. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? If I were to go on the internet and look it up, I wouldn't know who that is, so I don't care. If a story relies too heavy on what is told to us than what is shown, then we don't care. So it is for everyone who creates a story to find ways of showing what you want to tell. Why is it mentioned then that Thrall is the son of Durotan? Well, just watch the next scene, and maybe you can find out on your own.
Greetings, son of Durotan. I knew you'd find your way.
It was you I saw in the vision. Who are you? How do you know me?
I know many things, young war chief, about you and your people. My identity at this time is unimportant. What is important is that you rally your people and leave these shores immediately.
Leave? What's this all about, human?
Human? I left my humanity behind long ago. I am something different now. Know that I have seen the future and beheld the great burning shadow that is coming to consume this world. You sense it as well, don't you?
The demons are returning.
Yes, and only by leading your people across the sea to the distant lands of Kalimdor will you have a chance to stand against them.
But how can we...
I will answer all of your questions in time, young war chief. For now, rally your warriors and prepare to leave this land. We will speak again.
None of this makes sense. But the spirits tell me that I should trust him.
See, it's not important that we know or care about Yuratan. It's more important who says it. The Prophet. He makes it apparent that he knows much more about Thrall than we do. Even Thrall points that out. He then asks the Prophet who he is and how he knows him so well. This is where the game becomes suspiciously aware of me, as I just explained that telling us how he knows Thrall and who he is would mean little to us. The camera perspective changes, and so does the conversation. Having reached his goal, Thrall needs a new one to leave these shores. Note though that Thrall has not been given a motivation for doing so, which is why he is replying.
Leave? What's this all about, human?
We get a sense of his distrust, especially against humans. The Prophet laughs about such prejudice. Now you can take him by his word and say he's not human anymore. But I believe he also means that he left exactly this prejudice between orcs and humans behind, and he has become wiser because of it. He then talks about how he's seen the future. What I ask myself is, how did he get to see it? I always envisioned him being the one sending Thrall the vision. But now that I'm making this review, I'm kind of questioning that. Because if he could just send visions, why wouldn't he do that to anybody? Wouldn't that be a more effective way of getting his message across? Know if anybody can see the incoming, that would make it a lot easier for him. Also, the only apparent magical ability of this man seems to be the transformation into a crow or raven. What's the difference again? Anyway, because we don't see him using any other magic, or creating or having visions, I doubt he actually can do that. So how does he get that knowledge of the future? And wouldn't acting on that knowledge change it? Is that his goal? Then what's his motivation? Alright, now let's slow down and look very, very closely on what he actually says. He has seen the future. Okay, what did he see? A great burning shadow. Alright, what did it do? It is coming to consume this world. Right, this is where I'm like, wait a second. He is talking in present continuous, or to put it simple, a thing that happens right now. And if it's already happening, then you just have to look in the right direction to see it. You don't need a vision or a sight into the future. To give an example, know that I have seen the future and beheld the great bus that is coming to consume this world. Coming to pick us up. It's the same sentence, essentially. What the Prophet truly says is, your hate for humans leaves you unaware of what is really going on. And his question,
you sense it as well, don't you?
Has between its line the question if Thrall is not a bit like him, able to leave grudges behind. Thrall, riding up to the Prophet, is the visualization of his inner movement. Without telling us, we know his decision. In doing so, he can identify the real enemy. Now that the Prophet knows him on his side, he reveals further detail about Thrall's goal and gives him the motivation to do so. A chance of survival for him and his people. Thrall knows he is taking a leap of faith, trusting this man that apparently knows so many things, both of orcs and demons. And so we, the viewer, are not certain about the Prophet's intentions, but hopefully, like Thrall, we are able to put our bias aside to gain victory.
Yes? What do you want? Why are you poking me again? Why don't you lead an army instead of touching me? Poke, poke, poke. Is that all you do? Ooh, that was kind of nice. Me so horned, me hurt you long time. Me no sound like Yoda, do I? It not easy being green. Huh? Yes?